So welcome all of you. Are you back? No. Mr. Bandara is there.
Yes, sir.
Amali,
Okay.
Chamatka is coming now.
Yes, sir.
Nilusha, Nirosha, Sumuda, Amali. Who else? Dayani. Okay, fine. Right, so let's start. The next one is listening part. And let's see what we have got in the listening, okay? So in the listening one, I'm not going to waste time on the definition because we have discussed this already. So we will come down to the key concept. In the key concept, if you see, listening involves understanding spoken language. Definitely, when we are going to listen to something, somebody has spoken it. Like if we are going to read something, something is written there. So like reading involves a written text we have to read. Likewise, listening involves a spoken text. So here they have given you the difference between the written and spoken, which you can compare, like the first one I will talk about, like stays on the page, doesn't disappear, the written text. Whatever you write is on the page. It doesn't disappear. But compared to it, spoken language disappear as soon as it is spoken.
Excuse me, can't hear you, sir.
Can't hear me at all of you.
No, I can hear you.
I also can hear.
I also can hear you, sir.
So then the one who is, you have to log out and come back. Who was the one having problem? Dayani?
Okay, sir. Now okay.
Right. So spoken language is disappears as soon as it's spoken. Sometimes it is spoken fast and sometimes slowly, with or without pauses. So that's the differentiation they have given between the spoken and the written one. Okay, as we can see, spoken language is generally less planned and less well structured than written language. Spoken English spontaneously, somebody asks and we just say something. So very less we plan and we speak, only when it's particular occasions, like some presentations are there, or some kind of like, speech you are delivering. So other than that, commonly we don't plan it. But comparatively, written one we do. There are very good reasons for this. When we speak and usually don't have time to organize our thoughts and our language beforehand, so we just say things as we think of them. So what happened in the spoken? We just say the things as we think of that. So we don't plan very much that what we have to say. Only in certain cases, like we discuss the presentation and some particular speeches. Also, when we listen, we need to listen to simply structure message. As spoken texts usually disappear as soon as they are said, they need to be simple enough for us to process and understand in the time that is available. We can see that written and spoken language have different features. So, as we see, written and spoken features are different. Due to the way we planning of saying, we don't say with a plan, but written we say. It remains on the paper. What we write, spoken disappears. So we try to keep grammatical structure well organized in the written one. But in the spoken one, we don't care much about the grammar, because a lot of things are expressed with the facial gesture, with the body language. Sometimes we don't say something and the answer is clear. So these are a different kind of feature of the spoken and uh, written. We will go to the next one and see what we got more about it. They have given you some example of the further example. If you see here, the example is, to understand spoken language, we need to be able to deal with a lot of characteristics of spoken language listed in the table above. Here is an example of spoken language. You can see that it can be less well organized and less exact than written language. So they have given an example, a dialogue between father and son, where the father is asking like, how is your work? You know your history. Son, easy, just one word answer. Father, you sure? Son, it's just, I mean, all we need to do is, well, just read some stuff. So you see, changing one word, jumping to another, that's the spoken way. Father, but do you understand it? Son, yeah, can I go and play with Tom? So father is asking something, the child is trying to get rid of it and go. The conversation contains example of incomplete sentences, utterances, hesitations, sudden topic change, simple grammar, and general vocabulary. The short conversation which you see, we make sense of it partly through our understanding of language, but also through making use of context the language is spoken in, and our knowledge of the world. Knowledge of the world, remind yourself. Context, if we can see, like, you know, the father and child, if we see that the context or it is clear to us, then we can understand. Usually when the parents are asking about the homework, especially father, and the child reaction to that, it's not like, you know, very much pleasant. They cannot go on with that, talking about the homework or the school, whatever the work is. So that's how, if you can understand that background and you see that, then you can figure it out why the child is giving answer in a kind of like getting rid of it, and the father is inquiring. So that's what they are telling you. In order to understand it, what we need to have is language, this through making use of the context, and language is spoken in and around the knowledge of the world. Knowledge of the world also, like knowledge of the world is what here. Here is the father and child relationship, because usually boys and fathers, they are not so much close as compared to mother. And especially when it comes to us about something, the progress in the school. So then that's not a very pleasant topic to talk about mostly. Some of the brilliant children, it might be, but mostly it's not. In my case also, it was not so good. So that's what I'm telling you. Usually it is not. So if we understand that thing, then we can understand why, how, what kind of conversation is going on, you know. And when we want to make the students understand, so we create a scenario, we create a scene, context, and we try to say, okay, this is how it is going on. So they visualize that in their mind and trying to understand the dialogues which they are practicing or they read. So likewise, knowledge of the world is needed, the context is needed, okay, and the language is used there, so we can understand who is talking and what is it about. In this example, our knowledge of the relationship between father and sons, as I told you, and children's attitude to homework, which is not always very pleasant, may give us some help in understanding. But if we knew the exact context of the conversation, for example, where it took place, the father and the son body language, their attitude to homework, their relationship, we would understand more. So if we are much clear, if we can see that, for example, or watching a video, we can see the body language of them. we see that the relationship of that particular father and child, if that is clear in it, so we would understand in much better way. Okay, so all these things helps us to understand a conversation when the things around it are clear. Language, who is speaking to who, what's the scenario, okay, and our knowledge of the world about it, and we can see their body language plus facial expression, a gesture, their relationship, all that. So these things help us to understand the conversation between the people, between two or among the people very well, right? Like written language, spoken language has different text type. Text type, what type of, like in the written we discuss, okay, this is a complaint letter, this is a bill, this is a essay. So every one has a different text type is there used in it. Where were we? Where were we? Yeah, here. Text type. For example, conversations, stories, announcements, songs, instructions, lectures, and advertisement. Generally, they contain different ways of organizing language and information. So different text type, they organize the language and the information in it in different ways. So likewise, spoken English, what is it? Written language and spoken language also have the text type. We will go a little bit ahead and see what they are talking further. Particular range of, okay, different interaction pattern, fewer or more participant. Learning to listen involves learning to be able to understand a range of relevant suitable text type. So spoken way, different text type, different way. For example, if you are listening to a song, it has its own way. If you are listening to a speech, or if you are listening to a conversation between two, or if you are listening to a commentary, all these are different text type of the spoken, which is definitely when we want to listen to something, it has to be spoken by someone, right? So that's what the thing over here is, that we have different text type in the listening as well. Listening also involves understanding different speed of speech and different accents. Speed of speech, how fast or slow they are, and accent, different accents are also involved in it, and we need to understand in that accent also and speed also. That's why in the listening part in the Cambridge, speed is different when you listen to the primary listening CD and you listen to the secondary one and then the professional one. So speeds are different. Likewise, some people speak more slowly and with more pauses. Others speak fast and with few pauses. Features such as speed of delivery and accent are part of connected speech. Highlight this one. Features such as speed of delivery, okay, and accent are part of the connected speech. Connected speech, we will have some further things also in the spoken area. Here you noted down these two things. Other features of connected speech are word and sentence stress. We stress the word in different way, whether the first letter should be stressed, first syllable, second syllable, or the last syllable, like beautiful. All right. Likewise, comfortable. So some say comfortable. Center one they stress. Some say comfortable. The first one they stress. So this word stress. Likewise, there is sentence stress. Like in each sentence, you are not stressing the whole word same. You stress different parts of it in different ways. And that's we will discuss in the phonology later on when we do that. But just this is also to keep in mind part of the connected speech, word stress and sentence stress. Is this point clear to you when I say word stress and sentence stress?
Yes.
All right. Further detail, we will do that in the phonology of that, okay? That how to stress it. Right. Other features of connected speech are word and sentence stress, linking sounds and words together, and the use of connected forms. Linking sound, like if you see in the connected speech, We don't say this is a book. We say this is a book. So this is come together with the a. This a book. It is a book. Okay. So that is the sound we are connecting with each other. That's happened in the spoken way, which they call it here connected speech, right? And connected sound. Where? Here. And the use of contracted forms. Contracted form like don't, can't, won't, all these we use in the spoken way. One reason why learners have problems understanding spoken language is because they are not used to dealing with features of connected speech. So if you see, we can read, second language speaker, we can read the things easily and understand it. But when we are listening to some native speaker and or somebody else from other countries, so it's we feel difficulty in understanding. Why is that difficulty in understanding? Because we have difficulty in understanding the features of connected speech, pace of speaking, okay, the accent of it, all right, then the stress of the words and the sentence is stressed, and all these if we don't know. So we for example, we stress on comfortable, we say comfortable, right? But the native speaker, they say comfortable. Very less it comes to comfortable, so then we get confused in that. Likewise, a lot of words we stress in different way, they stress in different ways. So when we are not familiar with all that connected speech, the features, then we are confused about the listening part of it. Okay. Right. So next one is, but we do not listen everything in the same way. Now coming to the subskills here, the subskills part. We do not listen everything in the same way. There are several different listening subskills. Which subskill we use depends on our reason for listening. The same depends in the reading part we discuss. It depends on our reading, what for we are reading. Okay. So if you remember, reading for specific information, reading for gist, okay, and those all was there. So the same way it is here, like if you see subskills of listening, which subskill we use depends on our reason for listening. We might listen for gist, global understanding, specific information, detail, or infer attitude, listening to something attitude and speaker expressing. Other ways of listening are listening intensively, extensively. So if you see, this is the same feature which we discussed in the reading part of the reading, and the definition is same. Only the thing is here that there we use it for reading purposes. Here we use it for the listening purposes. Is this clear?
Sir.
Sir.
Right. So then we can go towards next. Let's see what they are talking about. That's the important area which you have to keep in mind. The listening subskills, okay? Which is you can give yourself reference of the reading one. So if reading one you have understood well, the same thing is in the listening part. Only the thing will be the skill is changed from reading to listening. We can see that listening involves doing many things beside understanding the grammar, vocabulary, and function of what we hear. Now, almost everything in the listening, it is there, only the grammar and beside what is the grammar, vocabulary, and function. That thing we don't in it. We don't discuss in it. Function of what we hear. It also involves dealing with the characteristic of spoken language. That's we discussed before, because when you listen, some things is definitely spoken. So basically we are listening to what somebody say. Okay. That's why characteristic of understanding the spoken language is essential part of the listening. using the context in our knowledge of the world, understanding different text type, understanding different speed of speech and accent, making sense of connected speech, and using appropriate listening subskills. Right. So now we will see what we can do to improve the listening abilities of the student in the classroom. Number one, in the classroom, we can give learners the opportunity to listen to many sources of spoken language. For example, different things we need to give to them to listen to, not always to one type of. The teacher, the learners, visitors, CDs, DVDs. This exposes learner to range of accent, speed of delivery, text types, and listening skills. So in the classes, we can do to teacher is the first one. Why? Because teacher is supposed to talk in English, and that is one of the source. Then they are listening all the time. Then it can be, we can invite other people to the class who comes and speak to them in English. They talk to each other. CDs, DVDs, videos, all these sort of things we provide them to listen to different types of the text. Okay. When we listen to recordings, we can't see the speaker body language or the context she is speaking in. And we can't ask the speaker to repeat or explain what they say. For example, if a recording is there and it's a CD or you are listening to, so there you don't see them. You can't ask them to repeat it. You can't see their facial and body language. You can't see the scene in which it is spoken, right? This makes listening to recording more difficult than listening to live speaker. Why? Because when live speaker, you see a lot of things are clear to you. But when it is to the CD, all these things are making difficulty in understanding. For this reason, it is good idea to help students listen to recordings by, for example, pre-teaching keywords. Like you need to know that what's the recording about, and there are keywords. So pre-teaching, like you just give them some vocabulary that to understand these words and practice with them. So when they listen to it, they will not feel difficulty in understanding what the listening is about. That is one type of practice you can do with them. Setting pre-listening tasks or some kind of activity you give to them before listening. Like, for example, you see the listening is about trip to, what is it? A trip to countryside. Fine. Okay. So you can ask them, first discuss with them who has been on a trip out of the town. So then they will tell you, definitely all the people go for the trip out of the town. And then you can discuss those things with them. So it will be a pre-task kind of activity. They will make up their mind and talk, okay, this is what. So when they listen to the activity, they are mentally ready for that. They went to something and they will pick it up. So this sort of activity you can do before doing the listening activity. Focusing initially on the GIS listening to establish context and playing the recording and second or even a third time. GIS listening also you can do, for example, you don't ask the very much detail of the listening activity initially when they are not used to it. You just listen to it and tell what is it about. So GIST, they can just overall give you an idea, it's about this thing. That if they can do at initial style, is fine. Later on, you can do it for the specific information. Okay, find out how many people are talking and they are talking about this, who is talking about this point. So then they look for that specific information and they say to play twice. In the Cambridge program, we play twice. If it is needed, you can play 3 times also. Why? Because to make them familiar with the listening part. Next one is some listening text course books are authentic material. What is authentic material? For example, they contain all the feature of real spoken language. Now, what's real spoken language? And what's the, unreal? So unreal is like when we create some dialogues in order to practice the language. Real is when you listen somebody is talking about something without any kind of in the real life, how they speak on a different topic. So that is the real one. Is it clear? And for the books and all that, we create dialogues. So we intentionally create such dialogues where we have the language which we want to teach them, that practice is there in it. But in the real life dialogues, there isn't anything like that. That's a continuous dialogues. There might be people talking about the things. Okay, so that is called authentic material. Is this point clear? Authentic material one?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Right. Other texts are written specially for language learner or graded to make them simple enough for the particular levels of learner, which I told you usually in the institute and in the school, those ones are written particularly for learning purpose. Authentic texts allow learners to develop strategies for dealing with the challenge of real language. Because now you might see children might be very good when we do the practice in the classroom. But if practically they happen to speak to a stranger in English, then the problem is different. They face problem in understanding that. Why? Because they are not used to the real one. So some of the real things also you have to introduce to have a practice like some videos to show to them, okay, some dialogues taken from the real life and let them to listen to that and guess what's the information share in that, what they are talking about. So likewise, they will be exposed to the real life experience as well. Okay, right. So next is, and when they understand, it builds up their confidence. Right. Understanding and showing you have understood are not the same thing. Understanding and showing you have understood are not the same thing. For example, maybe you can understand all of a story, but you can't tell the story. So that's what they say here. Understanding and showing you have understood are not the same thing. Sometimes it happens. Like so many times it happens like you can understand something by yourself, but you can't explain it to the others. Does it happen like that?
Yes.
Does it happen, Nirosha?
Yeah, it does sometimes.
Sometimes we understand the things, but it's difficult for us to explain to others, right? So this is what they are talking here, right? Uh, Maybe you can understand all of a story, but you can't tell the story. This means that learners may have understood something, but be unable to explain what they have understood. Tasks such as completing tables, true and false, ticking correct answers in list, and putting events in order allow learners to show whether they have understood or not without needing to use much language. So to particular things to understand, and we do these kind of activities like tasks such as completing tables. Like in one table, some of the things you have given grid and some of the things they have to put it there, or true false one, or taking the correct answer, like 2 3 options you give, multiple choice one. So these sort of thing, when you give it, so you try to understand their ability of that move, that okay, they can recognize that in the other extended activity you give in that, right? So you have seen that there are many different aspects of listening, identifying different phonemes, the way the different letters sound of different letters, phonemes, and other feature of connected speech. A teacher can focus on these through a listening text, or may sometimes prefer to do short activities just focusing on one of these aspects. 5-minute activity on minimal pairs. You need to know what is minimal pairs, highlight that. Word stress, I told you. Sentence stress, I told you. Dictation, you may know, right? So these kind of activities you people can do to practice the listening part, because listening part straight away you don't do from the CD. There are different other things also they can practice and prepare the children for the listening. We can make difficult text easier for learners to understand by giving them easy listening tasks. We can make an easier text more difficult by giving them harder listening tasks. It depends. Difficulty level you have to see. So sometimes if there is a difficult listening one, you can make it easy by giving them an easy task out of it. But if you see sometimes it's an easy listening, then you can make it difficult by giving it a complicated kind of activity to find out from the listening. That depends on the teacher. Next is the activities in listening lesson often follows in this pattern. Introductory activities. This we did in the reading one also, right? Introductory activities. An introduction to the topic of the text and activities focusing on key vocabulary in the text. Pre-teach important vocabulary and encourage learners to activate their knowledge of the world in relation to the topic. So for the listening, pre-vocab introductory activity can be that the vocabulary which is used there, you can give a list of them to them and discuss with them, right? You can give kind of activities which is related to that listening task, and you do that with them, discuss with them, so they are mentally ready for that. So these sort of things you can do in the introductory activities part of the listening. Number two, main activity, a series of listening activity developing different skills and moving from general to more detailed listening. Main activity, definitely whatever it is, they're supposed to do that. So it is maybe in the different, like in one CD, there might be 2, 3 parts or 5 parts or 10 parts, and in each part will be dealing with a different type of listening activity. Sometimes there will be one person talking, sometimes two people, sometimes there will be many people talking together, and they have to figure it out what they are talking. And so you can give those kind of activities, and which is usually the main one. Right, now we will see after the listening, the post listening activity, what it could be. Right, post task activities, activities which ask learners to talk about how the topic of the text relates to their own lives or give them opinions on parts of the text. These activities require learners to use some of the language they have met in the text. After, when they have finished, they can discuss about those things, relating it to the personal life experience. So that will be like they will be more firm on what they have learned out of it, and then they will attach it to the personal life experience and they talk about it. And sometimes they may give their own opinion about it. You ask them, okay, what do you think if this kind of thing which happened in the activity, what is your idea about it? Is it possible to happen or not, or something? So they can talk something to discuss about, taking that point which were discussed in the listening part, main activity, post task, just to make it firm, the understanding of what they did. Okay, so reinforcing, we call it reinforcing. Those activities should be consolidating and reinforcing activities about the post task, right? You may sometimes just want ask learner to listen to something and not give them any task. Listen to story, song, or explanation. This gives learner the opportunity to listen in relaxed way and enjoy the experience of listening to a foreign language. Sometimes just give a kind of listening activity which is not for doing a particular task out of it, but just to relax and listen, to make them familiar with the language. Okay, to just to listen to a song so they feel good. Okay, or just to listen to different kind of dialogues and just to you know, when you are listening, so you are listening and these things remains on your mind. So that sort of activity, not necessarily that to do a task always in the listening part. Right, so that's it. And that was all about the listening. Have you got any question? And I hope you have understood. It wasn't much different than the reading part in the Subskills. Only the way we do that in the classroom was a kind of a bit different than the reading part, but the Subskills area is the same for that. Yeah, is it okay? Clear? Nilusha?
Yes, sir.
Nirosha? Bandara?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay. What
Sumudha?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Dayani?
Yeah, okay.
All right. So now one skill is remaining, and that is speaking skill, okay? Which practice we will do next time. And then we will have a worksheet which is based on all 4 skills. So you have to revise those, the main areas of that, okay? Cohesion, coherence starts, and then the cohesion, coherence is in the writing. It comes to the accuracy and communication. Subskills of reading is the same as the subskills of the listening. Writing subskills, it is accuracy. In accuracy, we check the spellings and all these things. Wait, first of all, I stop the recording because that is over.